What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Kind of Funny Xcast, your home for all things Xbox here at Kind of Funny. Of course, I'm one of your hosts, Snowbike Mike, and today I am joined on a lovely April 1st. It's a Friday. It's April Fool's Day, but nobody's got tricks over here. Just fun times with the gang. Paris Lilly and Gary Whitta. Paris, I'll start with you because Gary's got something fun I want to ask him about. Paris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's funny. I on Monday I tweeted out. I go, I have a feeling it's going to be a big week, and little did I know it was going to be a big week. There's a lot that happened this week. I will say though, on a personal note, and this does affect the group as far as our kind of funny fantasy draft goes. I'm screwed. The game that I was literally counting on is coming out in 2023, so I'm screwed. So I got to scramble now. I need a miracle. That's all I got to
Uh,
say.
Harris and Gary, it is time for all of us to come together and maybe reevaluate what we're doing. Because, man, Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 being delayed into 2023, that's a hit, Paris. That was your big
Yeah.
one right there. That
Yeah.
was your big one.
Yeah.
Y'all are still up like 50 points. I do want to. Y'all really sprung forward this week.
Yeah, we had some good ones. Of course, Weird West did
Yep.
release. So, Paris, you got some points on the board once again, which, I'm going to ask you about in just a little bit. We'll talk about Weird West and the release and your thoughts on it so far. But, yeah, it might be time to go to the drawing board, you two, and see what we can do and how we can scramble and fix that. But, Gary Whitta, before the Fantasy Critic, of course, this past couple of weeks, you've been getting into a new hobby. You've been one to collect Xbox controllers. Now I see you messing around with keyboards. What's going on with that, Gary Whitta?
Yeah, I've always been fascinated by the mechanical keyboard world. I've been looking at keyboard porn on my Instagram for quite a while now, and I've been fascinated to start building some of my own. And it's always seemed like a little bit of a inscrutable hobby to me. It's like, I don't know, what's the barrier to entry here? It seems like a bit of a money pit, and there's a lot going on with like soldering irons and stuff like that. But I decided to take the plunge, and it turns out I knew a few friends who really kind of are knowledgeable in that world, who have built lots of their own keyboards, and I ordered some parts, and I finally have all the parts that I need to build my own. So that might be a little bit of a weekend project for me, messing around with switches and keycaps and stabilizers and lube and all kinds of good stuff.
Oh, wow, Gary. I
Oh
like
yeah, there's
that. You
lube.
bust
There's
out
lube
the
involved, Mike.
Okay.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
wow, Gary. Gary, I'll ask you this then, since you're getting into this and excited to build them. What is the dream keyboard setup? Is there a certain colorway that we would see out of you?
Well, so do I have anything in front of me right now? What do I have? So this is actually my main, hold on. This is my main keyboard that I use over on my Mac. This is called a Keychron K2. And it's got very pretty kind of black, white, red colorway. And it's also got very, very nice Gatoron brown switches. And I'm sure for people who are unaffiliated or uninitiated with the mechanical keyboard world, it's all this stuff's jargon's not going to mean very much. But it has that lovely thocky sound to it. It has that very, very satisfying sound to it. And there's people obviously it's a matter of taste, and people are always looking for like their own personal perfect kind of sound and feel and look. And that's why it's so infinitely customizable with so many different kinds of switches and springs and O-rings and all kinds of stuff you can do to keep tweaking it and just getting it, fine-tuning it to exactly how you want it. I haven't really started on that process yet. I know the kind of feel that I like, which is that kind of slightly thocky, kind of clicky feel. Like you kind of know it when you feel it. There's a sound that like hits you just right. It's almost like an ASMR kind of vibe. And I'm going to start, like as I said, start playing around this weekend and seeing what I like to what it is that I want to achieve.
Right, Gary. I can't wait to see what you complete over this weekend. But guys, like Paris said, we've had a big week, a lot of video game news to break down, talk about. So let's jump right in to the show because I can't wait to hear about MLB The Show and Weird West from Parris and Barrett. But before I talk about all that, let's jump right into it because this is the Kind of Funny Xcast. We post each and every Saturday at 6 a.m. West Coast, Best Coast time on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, roosterteeth.com, and of course on podcast services around the globe. Don't forget, we are now Epic Games partners, which means if you are buying Fortnite V-Bucks, if you're buying games off the Epic Games Store, you can help support the team in a brand new way by using our Epic Creator Code at checkout. Kind of funny anytime you purchase something that way. So please continue to support the team. Just like we'd like to thank our friends who have supported us over on Patreon for the month of April. We have some new Patreon producers right now. So shout out to Gordon McGuire, Fargo Brady, Pranksky, Dan, Golden Spider B, Tyler Ross, Delaney Twinning, First Responder, ND, Julian the Gluten Free Gamer, James Hastings, and Casey Andrews. So thank you all so much for your support on Patreon. This week, the Kind of Funny Xcast is sponsored by Uplift Desks, but we'll tell you all about that in a little bit. Guys, let's jump in right now because I'm very excited to hear Parris Lilly tell me about Weird West. It just dropped last night over on Game Pass. I'm excited to play it. It even has the cloud feature where you don't even have to download the game, which I'm pretty pumped about. But Parris, tell me all about your experience with Weird West.
So my experience with Weird West actually goes back to 2020. That was the first time I saw it. I think it was the PC Gamer Show. This was during the pandemic, right? During the summer of madness. It was like the first time I saw it on that stream, and I was like, "That's a game I got to keep my eye on. That looks really cool." It's Wolfeye Studios, that is made up of former Arcane developers who helped make Prey and Dishonored. So that's the pedigree right there. Getting my hands on it, and thanks to Devolver Digital, they sent me a PC code a couple weeks ago. So getting my hands on it, I absolutely love it. I really do. It's great because there's 5 different characters or 5 different stories that are happening in this game. It is a top-down RPG. Kind of the controls are twin stick. So think if you played The Ascent, similar to that in that way. Full on RPG, upgradable. The story is great. There's kind of a narrator that kind of pushes you along the way. Your choices seemingly do matter that you get to make during dialogue choices. You get to kill all the things while you're playing. I love a lot of unique ways and scenarios that you can get into. With various characters. And it's called Weird West because it's set in the Old West, but there's a supernatural element to it as well, right? And there's this whole mystery that's unfolding. And like I said, the 5 different stories, converge all of that. But I adore it. I really do. I think it's a phenomenal game. It's funny. I peeked at Open Critic on what Gary was talking just a second ago, and I saw it looks like the score right now is 76. Not bad. I personally thought it would be higher than that. On my personal scale, I would probably give this an 8 out of 10. It's not necessarily going to be everyone's cup of tea. I get that, but it fits right into my wheelhouse because, like I said, I love an RPG that I feel respects my time. And I feel rewarded as I'm collecting things and upgrading weapons and gear and exploring through the world that you have. And it felt fulfilling to me. It felt fun. And like I said, the 5 different character stories converging together is I like that dynamic that's in there. So you're getting these different perspectives as you're going through the game. It's great. And like you said, Mike, it's on Game Pass. It's on game, obviously on console. It's on Game Pass PC. You can play it on the cloud as well. I highly suggest people give it a chance. Check it out. The past couple of weeks, we've talked a lot about indie games. Obviously, there was ID at Xbox a couple of weeks ago, and this is the whole point why you say you support indie games. You support a studio like Wolfeye Studios because they're bringing something fresh. Maybe it's borrowing from other different tropes that we've seen before with RPGs, but it's putting it together in this unique way that I think as people experience it and play the story, they're absolutely going to love it. I really think that. So highly recommend it from me. Definitely recommend if you're on Xbox, you're subscribed to Game Pass. It's almost a no-brainer to go check it out. If you go purchase it, I believe it's $40. I believe so. So, not a $60, $70 game, and it'll definitely be worth your time. I would say I'm probably about a good 18, 20 hours into it myself. So, there's some meat to the bone as well. Not a quick experience, but you'll enjoy it for sure.
Very exciting stuff. Gary, any questions for Parris about Weird West? You're my RPG guy, the old school kind. Anything jump out to you there while we were seeing some footage from Barrett?
No, I had been watching it over it's been popping up in my Twitter feed quite a bit over the past week, and anything from Devolver always catches my eye because they just do really interesting stuff, and I like the look of the little bit of footage that I saw. I literally just discovered from you, Mike, that it's on Game Pass. When Game Pass strikes again, I was like, I was just thinking, I'm gonna have to go drop some cash on this thing to try it out. Nope, Game Pass saves the day yet again. So I am going to give it a try this weekend. It looks very much up my alley from what I've seen and from what Parris was just saying, describing it.
You know, it's funny with that because I guess they announced it was on Game Pass late last year and I missed it. And then I saw it again recently. You know, obviously it's on Game Pass. And I was talking about it on Twitter and I was like, no, they said that a while ago. But dude, again, I was honestly shocked that that game was on Game Pass because I do feel it's, you know, it's worth, you know, jumping out and spending the $40 to play. So the fact that Microsoft made the deal with Devolver to get it in Game Pass is just another reason why it's one of the best values in
Yeah,
gaming.
yeah,
No
yeah.
doubt, you two.
We checked
Love
that
these
box early on this
partnerships.
show, didn't we?
Yeah.
Got
Oh
that
yeah,
out of the
well,
way. We can move
well,
on now.
we're going to
we
be
got
talking a
another
lot
one.
about Game
Yeah.
Pass here in just a little bit because actually another game that's coming to Game Pass next week, it is spring, which means it's time to hit the diamond. And Barrett has jumped into MLB The Show 22. Barrett, what are your early impressions of MLB The Show 22?
Yeah, so we got codes, I think, right as the deluxe edition came out for people who ordered that and got to start playing a few days early. So I downloaded it on both my PS5 and my Xbox Series S last night. Got all of the things connected because, you know, there's cross-play, cross-progression, cross-save, all that good stuff. And I don't know if any of that... I know the cross-play was something last year. I forget if there was cross progression and all that stuff last year as well. And, you know, alongside that, you know, the game's out on both of those systems, but then it will also be out on Switch, which I believe is the first year that this is happening for MLB The Show. So that's very interesting with all of that of being able to have your, you know, your consoles, you know, plugged into your TV at home and then, you know, have the ability to, you know, pick up and go on the play some games on the go on your Switch as well, which is kind of cool. I have not touched the Switch version, so I can't really speak to that and how all that runs. But honestly, playing a little bit last night and going back to a little bit this morning of just like kind of checking out a little bit of everything. It feels more of the same, and you know I feel like this is less of an MLB The Show problem and more of like the, you know, the yearly sports entry conundrum where it's like, what do you really do to like, I don't know, just to feel more engaging year to year? You know, I said this about 21 last year, right? Where it was like, I did expect, you know, the reception to be a little lower on the PlayStation fan base side of things because 21 also felt a little bit more of the same of 2019 and 2020. Like 2019 was the last entry in MLB The Show where it was like, oh, they're actually like adding some like cool new modes, and the last few years have been a little more iterative on things and like tweaking some things here and there, but nothing super major. But yeah, last year I was saying like, oh, you know, it'll probably be kind of shrugs from, you know, PlayStation fans because it's more of the same, but then, you know, the Xbox fans who last year got to play this for the first time are probably going to be really high on it and it'd be like, oh my god, like this really good baseball sim, which it is. It's just, you know, it's kind of the same great baseball sim every year, and so yeah, it's just, you know, I'm having fun with it. I didn't stick that long with 21. I'll be interested to see like how long I stick with 22, and I think that was less on the game and more just like I was kind of tuned out of baseball last year. So maybe I'll get into hopefully more into just like sticking with it and actually paying attention to the season, because that's usually what I do is I'll play a little bit and, you know, actually pay attention to my teams and all that stuff. So yeah, I would say it's on Game Pass, I believe, dropping on Tuesday. So, you know, you don't have like really an excuse to not check it out if you're a baseball fan on Xbox. If you're on PlayStation though, and I know you're listening to an Xbox podcast, it is one of those things where I question of like, is there really anything new for you here? I like there is like some I think they added some new moments this year, and moments was like an idea that they started, I believe, in 2019, where you're playing specific like moments in history of baseball, which is like really cool. And so they're like adding on that, and like they're doing like daily moments where I think they're like kind of like adding new things every day for people to check out every day, which is pretty cool to like keep people like interacting with that system and stuff like that. But as long as it's like the core things, right? Like I'm not really into Diamond Dynasty. I can't really speak to like if that's really changed at all. I know, you know, when people were unpacking their cards, which is something I know that you would be really into, Mikey, right? Like, you know, people were getting some crazy unpacks on release night last night, so I know that was fun for some people. But I'm interested to like hear if like if Diamond Dynasty is like super crazy different or anything, but franchise mode is franchise mode. Like you're gonna get what you kind of expect here, even on a graphical level. Like I forget, I'd have to look this up if MLB The Show 21 was cross-gen last year, and I forget if it's cross-gen this year. Like, but nothing stood out to me graphically where it's like, holy crap, this is like a huge step up from last year and things like that. But I don't know. Yeah. Check it out on Game Pass if you're playing on PlayStation, though. Maybe pick it up if you need like the new rosters and stuff. I know for me personally, it was cool to finally see the Cleveland Guardians in the first year where that's going to be implemented. So no longer have to be like, man, my home team is like definitely not great, and been feeling weird about the mascot for the last for most of my life and all that, or not the mascot, but the logo for a good chunk of my life. So it's cool to see like all the Guardian stuff updated for Cleveland specifically. But I would say like the biggest thing, and again, this is like a weird not Xbox specific thing of being able to play it on the Switch and on the go and stuff. I feel like that's probably the most interesting aspect of MLB The Show 22 this year, right? And being able to transfer your whatever progression you want to transfer over, what if that's like franchise mode or Diamond Dynasty and all that stuff. I feel like that aspect's got to be interesting, but I did not receive a code for the Switch version, so I would have to go out of pocket to check it out there, and so I'm hesitant to be like, oh yeah, you should get it on the Switch so you can have that accessibility to play at home and then play on your way to work on the train and stuff like that. But maybe try to find some Switch specific reviews. I'm interested if Digital Foundry will do something with that since it's a new Switch specific thing. But yeah, it's more MLB The Show 22. I think right now, like quick impressions on the KindaFunny scale, like it's like that weird like MLB The Show is always great. So like it's always kind of a 4 out of 5, but like after year where it's just kind of the same thing, it kind of teeters down to like it's okay, it's MLB The Show. So that's that's a little over 12 hours impressions for myself though.
Parris and Gary, I want to stick with that because, we play a lot of sports games here at the KindaFunny Xcast. We've talked a lot about sports games, and we've talked about these annual releases and what that really feels like for the player base, kind of getting the same copy and paste, kind of moving forward the same way each and every year. We've seen it in Madden. They've brought out the yard. We've seen it in NHL. They made it the World of Shell with 3v3 and like no rule sets. Even NBA 2K has taken it to the neighborhood for more of a street ball vibe. Parris, I'll start off with you. Like, when you think of baseball, how do you bring some freshness, some new life into baseball where, it is so historic, it is by the book in the diamond? Can you bring any sort of fun, fresh, new takes into a game like this?
Yeah, it's tough on an annual title. I mean, not just baseball. I mean, it's all sports, really. It's kind of what Barrett is saying. It's like, you're not going to do this complete overhaul and iterate on the system on a yearly basis. So you're really kind of just getting a roster update every year, more or less. They might tweak a few things here or there. It's kind of leaning more into the fantasy aspects of it that kind of keeps it fresh year to year. I think we've talked about this on the show before. I kind of tapped out on a lot of sports games probably around 2011, 2012 for that very reason. It was just like, I feel like I'm giving you my $60 every year for a roster update. So ironically enough, with something like MLB The Show being on Game Pass, it kind of alleviates that, where you don't feel like, all right, I'm spending $60 every year to keep playing baseball with a new roster, or like he's saying, like with Cleveland, they change the team name. You don't feel that burden, so you'll probably stay more engaged year after year playing it versus in the past. So it's tough, man. Obviously, we know like NBA 2K has obviously been a high seller. Madden, has been a high seller. I get it, but baseball even more so. I think it's kind of tough because other than the names on the back of the jersey changing, you're still just swinging a bat. It's still just it's tough. So I totally get where Barrett's coming from on that.
It's like and again, it's like, how do you do this? Where it's like I was thinking about it last night of like, you kind of I would want to see all, like, not just like MLB The Show, but just like give these sports games a platform every generation. You know, where like it's one game
It
and
needs
you
to
do
go.
like major updates to it every year when it comes to like roster and maybe some performance things and maybe some new modes to add into the platform every year, and then release a new title once the next generation of consoles come out.
That's not going to happen, though. You want to know
Yeah,
why?
I
You want to know why
know.
it's not going to happen?
Because people pay for it every single
Exactly.
year, Paris.
Exactly.
I
As long as
know.
people keep spending the $60 every year, they're
Yeah,
not going to do that.
that's wild to me, man. It's really wild that people like these games do sell well, and that's why they do it, and that's why they feel like they can just just iterate a little bit each and every year and stuff like that. And I think the big test for me for this year will really be like servers and stuff like that. I remember last year Mikey and I trying to cross play was a little bit of a headache, but since I've got both the PS5 and Xbox Series S version, and I was able to like link all of those accounts to my MLB The Show account and all that stuff, I can easily access either console there, so that might be a little easier for us to maybe stream in the next week and go to head to head and stuff like that. And I think there was like the mode added last year or 2 years ago that was like you straight up like have like a league with like 7 or 8 other friends and stuff like that. Mike, I think you had like started that up with maybe like Washi or something like that last year. And little things like that, which again this year wasn't anything super new or different. Like even the menu is like the home menu is like the exact same. So it's just like, all right, like because even like I felt like the show like even like they would like change at least like the menu presentation, stuff like that for at least once every year. But that wasn't even really changed up this year. It's all pretty much the same.
I am really looking forward to this year's The Show because they added in the co-op feature, which I think is a really fun way to keep it a little fresh. Right now, me and Barrett can play on the same team, whether we're going head to head with others or in Diamond Dynasty. So I really look forward to checking out co-op and having that cross play. I think will continue to build up that player base. But Parris, you're so right. It's like, how do you continue to evolve and make this great? And I think we look at Game Pass and say, you have the partnership with EA. What would it take to get to the next level of putting those sports titles day and date on Game Pass to breathe in some fresh air? Be kind of cool to see. But let's talk about Game Pass a little more because Gary Whitta and Parris Lilly, you might have gotten your wish here. Our good friend over at Jez Corden from Windows Central has got the scoop on an Xbox Game Pass family plan that's currently in the works and could be releasing sooner than later. So let's jump into it. Coming from Windows Gaming Central, our good friend Jez Corden with the scoop. He writes, according to trusted sources familiar with Microsoft's efforts, we can now confirm that Xbox is moving ahead with an Xbox Game Pass family plan, which could be set to launch sometime this year. From our information, paying a higher tier for an Xbox Game Pass family membership will net you access for 5 players for games across the entire library and will be far cheaper than paying for 5 separate Xbox Game Pass accounts, as is necessary today. Utilizing Microsoft's family account system already in use for Office 365, players within the same country will be able to play together using a single Xbox Game Pass subscription managed by a central account holder in much the same way as Netflix. Some details remain unclear for now, though, for example, there will be separate family plans for PC Game Pass and Xbox Game Pass consoles, or will it be exclusive to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate? And the exact pricing is still unknown as of writing this, besides that it will be reportedly far cheaper than having to pay for several separate accounts as required today. Gary Whitta, you've asked for it. You're about to get it, it seems like. I guess what we really need to know is 2 things. Is it Ultimate or is it console exclusive? What is the price point, Gary? With 5 accounts on this, what are your thoughts right now as we think about this?
What is it for Game Pass right now? What's the base price for Game Pass?
Console is $9.99.
Yeah.
Ultimate is $14.99, Gary. So that works out to about times 5, $49 and $149, Gary.
So what about $19.99 for regular family and like $24.99 for like ultimate family, something like that? Maybe it'll be something like that. Maybe they won't do the ultimate part at all. It will just be for consoles. Remains to be seen. I think they'll try to find a price that's reasonable. The thing that I'm most glad to hear is that it's not necessarily it doesn't have to be people in the same household, right? You can, because
Yes.
I like
Right.
if my mother-in-law who's across the state, or my nephew or whatever wants to get in on this, I can we can do that. That's how it works right now with our Nintendo Switch online family plan, where we have like multiple family members in different places. We're scattered all over, but we're all on the same plan. I would love to do that. If I've got family members in other households that might want to get in on it, I'll happily kind of subsidize them. And again, even within our own household, and we've got like multiple Xboxes in different rooms. It'll be nice if my kid can jump onto her Game Pass subscription and play a Game Pass game and not have to worry about being on my account, which I might be using somewhere else at the same time. So I think it will definitely simplify things. It'll be nice to to get more details on the pricing and the logistics and what the actual offering is going to be. But in broad strokes, absolutely, yes, step in the right direction. I don't know if Microsoft, if we're just very prescient and we get very lucky with the predictions that we make, or if they're actually listening to us. And like Phil Spencer's like, hear what Parris said, go make that happen. It's like we say it here, it comes out there. It's like we seem to be very, very good at predicting Microsoft's next move around here, one way or another. But yeah, it's the family plan, as we had mentioned in the past, was like a big blind spot in an otherwise really, really cool Game Pass offering that they have over there. So it'll be nice to finally check that box.
Paris Lily, you have been a big advocate for this. Is this a step in the positive right direction? And of course, same question for you. What are we doing? Is it going to be console? Are we going to take advantage of Ultimate and be able to get everything for everyone, so everyone can feel the power of playing on the cloud on their phone? They can jump over and get the PC side of things. What are you really thinking here?
Yeah, I was very happy to see this. For obviously, we've talked about it many times here on the show. Just my family dynamic, it would make a lot of sense to have a family plan for Game Pass. I'm actually a little different than Gary on this, because
Okay.
Yeah, you were making a face when I was throwing out the prices there. Did you think I was
Yeah.
coming in too high or something?
Well, no,
Oh,
it wasn't so much that. It was, I don't think they're going to do a two-tiered approach where they'll
Okay.
have a console version. I think I just think you push it all to Ultimate. And the reason I do is because of it being family, and Xbox is promoting that you don't need an Xbox to be able to experience Game Pass. You can do it on the PC, you can do it on the cloud as well. So obviously mobile devices and all that. So what better way for people in your family to be able to have access to it? Hey, I'm on my cell phone, I want to go play a game, I can because of the family plan. I'm on my PC, I can, right? Etc. Obviously on the console. Pricing, if it's Ultimate, I agree with you at the low end. I do think 25 seems right. I could see it going as high as 35 because it's 5 people. I always thought, they would do 4 people, but the fact that they would do 5 people, 5 people would have access to Game Pass, I think that pushes it up a notch. So I would love to see, because I know when we talked about in the past, I was thinking 20 to 25, but now that we're saying a 5th person, I'm thinking more 25 could be as high as 35, which I do think would be too high. I think 25 to 30 is probably right.
Well, I mean, that seems high to me. I think they could maybe even come in lower, and you don't want to get too confusing. You don't want to end up with a PlayStation Plus Essentials expanded, Ultimate, Gold,
Right.
Super Mega, whatever, where there's so many tiers, people are confused.
No,
but right now,
just one tier. But I'm just thinking in my head, pricing. What would they?
I'm wondering if
price
it's like, if it's 10 and 15 right now, maybe you do 15 for regular Xbox Game Pass family and 20 for Ultimate family or something like that. I don't know. Like I think five is pretty generous. I think Nintendo actually gives you more. I think you can do up to 7 with the Nintendo family Switch Online. It remains to be seen. It's going to be in that ballpark. All these numbers thrown around. We're not going to be more than like $5 off either way. It's going to be in that area. The question is it a new tier? Or what would be real? I mean, they won't do this, but what would be really cool is if they just rolled the family features into the existing Ultimate and said, you know what, same price, but now you get family as well.
Woo!
Like that would be a
Gary.
very baller move.
Giving it away.
Then it would be truly Ultimate. That would be. Here's the thing. You think about Ultimate, right? It's like, maybe you're not. Ultimate can be many different things, right? So maybe you're not interested. Maybe you don't have a PC. Maybe you don't want Ultimate because you don't use the PC features. Maybe you don't do cloud streaming, so you're not going to need it for that. But maybe you have a family. So like one way or another, Ultimate is going to check some kind of box for you, and there's a reason to spend the extra $5.
But the reason I'll say again, the reason I think they go one tier and go ultimate, and we need to get into this news story too, because I got something I want to say about it, is the fact that Xbox Live Gold is also a part of Ultimate. So you're also making Gold a family tier for Gold as well, because all that would be rolled up into it. And because if you got people in your family that want to play online, they all have to have Xbox Live Gold to be able to do it as a current, right? Because I don't think you can share that. I don't think you can right now. So I think each individual in the house would have to have Xbox Live Gold to play online, right? I think I'm right.
Yes, I believe you have to have Xbox Live Gold to play online
Yeah.
multiplayer
Yeah.
that
So,
aren't free for everyone
right.
out there.
Right. But I guess my point is the fact that I have Gold, I can't share that with the entire family. Only someone that's a sub account on the console can do.
Correct.
I forget. I might be screwing this up. I apologize if I am. But it just seems to me that since they're promoting multiple platforms to play Xbox, again, we know a TV app's coming, right? That's another angle to this too. There's all going to be all these different ways that you can access Game Pass. I don't see them having a family plan that can't access that, because I always use my wife as an example. My wife she's buying the cheapest one, and then she's going to be mad why it doesn't work, right? So I just think you make it ultimate so that covers all bases, all platforms. Everyone has access to it,
Whatever they need to do, they need to keep it simple. I think
Yeah.
they want to try to avoid falling into that trap that Sony fell into earlier this week with the multiple different tiers, and people were
Right.
confused about what's in each one. And there is, and Microsoft already has some confusion about the difference between Game Pass and Gold and games with Gold and all this different stuff. So if they can keep it simple, and you need to be able to explain it very, very quickly, because especially when you're dealing with families, you're dealing with like moms and dads who are going to be the family administrators. I don't have time to to learn all the different confusing aspects of it. It just has to be something very, very simple. So I think this will, especially considering so many games on the Xbox platform are covered under Game Pass now, this will at least solve that problem of, I can't play this game right now because you're trying to play something else on my account on another Xbox or whatever, and only the home Xbox, the master machine has all of these privileges and so forth. I've talked before on the podcast about how that can be really infuriating. So as long as you're playing games within the Game Pass ecosystem, which is, if not all, certainly many of them, and all of the big Xbox first party titles, it will solve that problem in a snap as well, which is something that's something they've needed to do for a while.
You guys threw out some prices there. Gary, you blew me away with how cheap you're going. And I like that, Gary. I'd love
I'm
to
telling you, get aggressive.
Do we expect, maybe, let's say they do land on Ultimate, 5 accounts under Ultimate. Do we land on $50? That means everybody's saving $5. Everybody's putting $10 in the pots. Or does it have to be cheaper than $50 to wow you two?
Yes. Yeah, it does.
Really?
Okay.
Listen, you got to go cheap. Everyone's still broke. No one, people don't have a lot of money to spend these days. I think if it's about value, you've got to come in at a really, especially families, right? You're managing family budgets and all of these different subscriptions these days: Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Amazon, you name it. That's now become part of the family budget. If you're sitting at the kitchen table figuring out, how much you've got to spend on, food and subscription, like having Netflix and Disney Plus, that's practically a utility these days, right? That's not a luxury anymore for families. Like, that's your basic kind of entertainment ration. So, and you add up all these subscriptions, and they can start to get really expensive. So, if Microsoft want to see a lot of uptake on a family plan, I think it's in their interest to make it as cheap as possible.
The more I'm thinking about it as we're talking this out, $29.99. $29.99. It's double the price. It's double the price of an individual Ultimate account, and you're basically saying 3 more people get added, quote unquote, for free by doing it that way, right? The whole family can come in for $30. That seems fair to me. $50 would really dissuade a lot of people, in my opinion. I think that's too much. I think people will say, well, I'll just continue to buy individual games piecemeal versus give you $50 a month so my family could play. Like I said, at the low end, 25 to me would be super aggressive in that. I think 35 is probably about as high as I would want to see it go, but 30 makes the most sense. That you can market great value for the family. I can already see the E3 promos for it. Everyone's smiling with the kids and playing. Be great. I think $30, $29.99.
That is a killer price. It'll be really interesting to see. The price point's going to matter here, because then the conversation will set in. What's up with Xbox Gold? What's up with Xbox Game Pass for console or PC, right? Like now you get kind of close where I'm looking at you, Paris, going, well, I'm paying $10 a month. I should be on the family plan with 5 other people if that's how much they're paying. That's
Yeah.
going to be a fun conversation. But let's bring Xbox Live Gold in really quick because, of course, we have April's games with Gold conversation starting up right now. And also, we're going to loop in because the big PlayStation news was PlayStation Spartacus. So let's talk about all this right after a word from our sponsors.
Shout out to Uplift for sponsoring this episode. I've been using my Uplift desk for well over a year now. I love the thing so much I decided to write a rap song for them. The build quality is real good. It's made of real high quality wood. They didn't ask for it, I just did it anyway. Getting my Uplift desk immediately improved my mood. Whenever I'm on shows, I'm standing up, I'm feeling a lot more energetic. And also I kind of feel like I was just maybe creating some bad habits sitting down at a desk all day. I would move my legs up, I'd sit underneath my legs on my chair, and eventually all that stuff just created really bad back pain for me. Choose from laminate, whiteboard, bamboo, solid wood, butcher block, or even custom solid wood or laminate options. Uplift Desk won New York Times Wirecutter's Best Standing Desk from 2019 to 2022. And while I'm at it, I'm just gonna give them an award as well. Best standing desk that I use in my bedroom from when they sent it to me until now. Uplift Desk have a 15-year warranty. They ship the same day you order with free shipping and free return shipping. So if you've been feeling the effects of sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day, maybe you want some more energy in your life, maybe you want to do squats in the middle of a Zoom call or something, uplift your life. Go to kindafunny.com/uplift.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm sure I threw Barrett Courtney a curveball there, producing the
No,
ones
that
and
was
twos,
great.
but he got it.
I knew you. You were coming up the court, and I saw you from a mile away, and you tossed it to me, and I got that time code.
There you go. So let's talk about Xbox Gold, Xbox Live Gold right now, because our games with Gold for the month of April are coming in right now. We have 4 games, 2 backwards compatible, and of course 2 current gen consoles for you on the Xbox One and Series X and S. So you have another Sight, Q, Outpost, Kalo K, X, and MX versus ATV Alive. Now, guys, we've had this conversation before of what are you doing with games with Gold? What are we doing with Xbox Live Gold, right? And the conversation kind of comes down to, hey, they should just cut games with Gold because they have Game Pass. But on the opposite side, what I want to bring into this conversation right now is this week we saw PlayStation Spartacus announced, and PlayStation Plus is now rolled up with PlayStation Now to make the new PlayStation tiers. And we'll talk about the competition in a second. But Parris, I know you're eager to talk about this because we've just seen PlayStation Plus and Now get rolled together. Do we think we'll see that with Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Gold anytime soon?
You know, it's funny because obviously we're talking about this because we saw the games that come out, and let's just be honest, the offering is getting worse every month. Just is. To the point, it really makes you question, why are we even doing Gold at this point? So I don't think that they're going to get rid of it. Because you don't want to force people to basically pay more to go up to $10 a month for Game Pass, because you would think logically, just make it in the base Game Pass and be done. I don't think they're going to do that. So I do think they're going to keep this bottom tier, $5 a month. This is how you play online games, and they'll have some offerings with it. So the compromise, I think, is you need to evolve it, and you need to take some. Look, obviously, we don't work in the back rooms. Who knows what the financial repercussions of this is? But on the outside looking in, they need to make the offerings better for Gold, because I understand with Gold, once you get it, you own it. You could cancel Gold tomorrow and you own those games. But the game offerings just simply need to be better. I mean, these are literally bargain bin items that they're giving you. And when you look, especially now with Spartacus coming out, you look at what you get with PlayStation Plus most months, they're decent enough, right? That I'm like, okay, I can understand what PlayStation is doing those games. And maybe I played that game already, but what the heck? Let me make sure I grab it and I have it in my library. Where the stuff with Gold, I'm at the point I don't even care. Why would I want to own that? These aren't games I would play. These aren't games that anyone is eagerly wanting to play. So they got to figure out a way to kind of up the ante, so to speak, at the bottom tier. Offer something a little more quality, make a deal with a few indie studios or something, and have not necessarily a day and date indie game there, but maybe an indie game from a few years ago, that was of quality as a part of that offering that you get in Gold. Whatever I don't know. go back into the back catalog of Xbox titles, something to where it feels like it's more worth it than what it is right now, because the games aren't why you're spending that $5 a month. You're literally just doing it so you can play online. And that's if you don't subscribe to Game Pass. I still think gold should be in the bottom tier of Game Pass, regardless. I think that $10 Game Pass on console should have gold as a part of it. And if you don't want to subscribe to Game Pass and you just want to be able to play online, make it a little better. Something. Because this is just like, I pay attention to what the community says. It's not just me saying this. A lot of people just see what Xbox Live Gold is compared to what PlayStation is doing with PlayStation Plus. It just does not compete at all. Not at the bottom tier.
Do you think this is a product of Game Pass where you're putting your first party titles day and date and in the service no matter how old they are, right? And
I
now
think so.
maybe you can't give those away as gold because they're already in there. Like, do you think this is a weird juggle they're having problems with right
I
now?
think so, but that also goes to my point. If you're going to keep that prereq that a game that I grab out of gold I own, then and again, you don't have to take a newer Xbox game. It could be some old Xbox One game. I don't know. I'm just pulling out a game, Rise or something, right? I can grab Rise out of gold and I own it now. Maybe you make a deal with a few third parties, some older Ubisoft titles, maybe The Division or something. You can grab that and now you own it. An older Assassin's Creed game, something like that. That's why I brought up the indie titles as well, to where it at least feels like maybe it's a game I missed from a few years ago. Oh, that would be cool. Let me go grab that. Now I own it. But it's also in Game Pass too for people, whatever. I get it, but it's at least having that sense of ownership that if I cancel that sub, I still have access to that game. Whereas we know now with Game Pass, you cancel Game Pass, you lose access to everything. To me, that would be the kind of the trade-off there. But they just need to make the offerings a little more attractive, in my personal opinion, because I think it does more harm than good. I don't even know if Barrett has it up, but if you look at the games that they have this month, I'm just like, it's almost a turnoff. Like, really? Who wants to play that? No one wants to play those games.
Honestly, I didn't even like look them up because
Yeah.
I looked at the list. I was like, none of this seems interesting to even.
But that's exactly my point.
Exactly.
They weren't even worth the effort for you to put it in the show. You see what I'm saying? So they got to do something. They got to up the ante on it.
Okay, Widow, what are your thoughts on games with gold? How would you elevate this product if you were able to do that?
Yeah, I wish they would just simplify the offering and roll the online multiplayer into Game Pass and have it be just the one thing that you need. So far as games with gold is concerned, honestly, I sometimes have to be reminded that it's still a thing that they do because it's not that exciting. It's starting to feel very, very vestigial in the age of Game Pass these days. And I can't remember the last time there was a game on games with gold that was like, "Ooh, that's worth grabbing." PlayStation. The closest analogy to games with gold is PlayStation Plus, right? Which is online multiplayer. Plus, we'll throw a few games at you every month. I think PlayStation Plus does 2 games with gold. I can't remember how many they do. Was it like 3 or something? Like no, PlayStation Plus this week is 3. This month is 3. They give you 3 games. And it's a mixed bag there as well. I think on PlayStation Plus, like Slay the Spire is a good game, but the other 2, like, who cares?
Hey,
oh,
no
here we
slander
go.
against SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. One of the best games from the mid 2000s that ever got remastered. Okay, no slander.
My point being that generally these have not, as Parris says, the offerings have not been great, and I understand why. It's a different proposition to say to a third party developer, "Hey, let's put your game on Game Pass for a limited time. People have the option to buy at a discounted rate, but we can also put it back in the box." That's the interesting thing about we don't talk about this often enough actually when we talk about Game Pass. Game Pass is great, but it is a bit of a double-edged sword. In the same time, it's exciting to think about all the new things that are arriving on Game Pass. You also have to keep an eye on the stuff that's going away. Like, for example, I was planning to play Yakuza 0 and Kiwami 1 and 2. They were on Game Pass for a long time. I never got around to them, and now they've rotated out again. So I have to wait for them if they ever come back or buy them in order to get a chance to play those games again. So you've always got to keep an eye on what's leaving. It's always nice to be able to just like know that you own the game and not have to worry about is it going to disappear the next month or the month after. But I've learned to kind of keep a weather eye on the stuff that's going as well to make sure, oh shit, if there's something going, maybe I should play that now before it goes away. The same like you try to catch a movie on Netflix before it disappears at the end of the month or whatever. But yeah, I agree. I agree with Parris. Either get rid of it or make it better. But right now, it kind of falls awkwardly between these two stores where it's not that great. No one's excited. We're all excited about Game Pass. Talk about all the time. Like when's the last time we've been doing an Xbox podcast now for a long, long time? When's the last time we really talked about games with gold and what's popping off on games with gold this week? Hardly ever, because it's just not that great.
I can actually tell you the last time, in my opinion, they had a decent game in gold. It was January 2021. They had Little Nightmares. That was it.
Okay.
That was the last one that I remember. I was like, oh, I need to go grab that because I didn't play it before. So I'm like, let me go grab that now while I have a chance. And if I get around to it, I'll play it because I think they did it right before the sequel was coming out, which made a lot of sense. But that's kind of what I'm talking about. Do stuff like that. That makes a lot of sense to me. And that, at least at $5 a month, there's an appeal there to where, okay, maybe not the greatest game. It's an older game. That's fine. But it's good enough that I feel like I'm getting some value out of it, especially compared, like we're talking about PlayStation Plus. PlayStation Plus over the years has definitely had some games that you get every month that, hey, even if I don't play it right away, that's worth me making sure I grab it so I can go play it down the road later.
True. And of course, talking about the competition, we now know this week PlayStation Spartacus has been revealed. This was rumored to be competition for Xbox Game Pass. Turns out it's kind of on a different level, but still, they might push Xbox here because they're offering, their tagline is over 700 plus games in their catalog. You have game trials and collaborations with third-party partners to add games into the catalogs and service. Of course, we talk all the time about EA Play and that awesome offering through third parties. We've seen a lot of great third-party partnerships come into Game Pass. Parris, I'll kick it to you first. Is this a threat to Xbox Game Pass? Will this make, fill in the team elevate games with gold and Game Pass offerings? Or could we see a cut to third-party partnerships with Sony stepping into the ring?
I think gold, yes, for everything that we just talked about. Game Pass, absolutely not. And PlayStation Spartacus, whatever we're calling it, it's exactly what I thought it was going to be. So I wasn't surprised to see what the tiers looked like and what they offered. So it is what it is. But I knew going in, this wasn't going to be a quote unquote true Game Pass competitor because they're not going to give you games day and date. It seems like this is more of the middle tier seems like the one that makes the most sense to me because you're going to get access to some of the best PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 games, probably, a year, 18 months after they release. So really, if you have patience, you'll be able to get the games through the service versus spending $70 for them at launch because they talked about Miles Morales coming, Returnal. We know eventually things like Ratchet and Clank, things like that are going to be in that service. At that top tier, getting access to the back catalog of PlayStation 2, PS1, PS2, what was it, PSP games, but the PS3 games you still have the cloud stream. I was kind of that's unfortunate. I would like a download option there along with the streaming as well, but that damn cell processor I'm sure is what's causing the headache with the emulation on that. Overall, like I said, I think the middle tier makes the most sense if to get. I'm kind of on the fence of, do I just stick with because I have PlayStation Plus, do I just keep what I currently have or do I go to the middle tier? I'm kind of leaning towards subscribing to that middle tier, but we'll see as more information comes out. I'm just not sure that top tier is for me because I don't have enough interest in wanting to go to the back catalog of stuff through PlayStation Plus to have access to it. Let's just keep it real, as an Xbox show. I would rather have access to all my backwards compatible games like Xbox is doing, where if I own it, I can go play it. Whereas right now you can't do that on PlayStation. So I'd probably get the middle tier.
That was a really interesting move there because, over here on the Xbox side, Jason Ronald and the team have done a phenomenal job with the backwards compatibility program. And that's not tied to Game Pass. That's not tied to Xbox Live Gold. That's just buy it off the storefront, or if the game is updated and ready to go, put it in with the disc and you're good to go. It is very interesting to see that hidden behind a paywall. Yeah, Gary, you and I talked about this on the day it broke on Tuesday. A couple of days later, how you feeling right now about PlayStation Plus and the brand new tiers? A threat to Xbox, or are you jumping up to PlayStation Premium on the third tier?
It hasn't changed my essential calculus where if somebody were to ask me today, should they get a PlayStation or an Xbox, I would still say get an Xbox because, even though they're very, very similar boxes, with 90% of the games are the same, there's really not a lot in it. Game Pass is the big differentiator. It's just such an incredible value. You got to have it. It makes a big difference. Is the fact that PlayStation Plus now has these additional tiers, does that balance it out again? No, because while it's a much better offering than the base PlayStation Plus that's available now, which ain't that great, it's still not as good as Game Pass. And the big differentiator is the day and date new releases. That's Xbox laid down a big marker with Forza, Halo, Gears of War, Age of Empires, Starfield, all of these games a day and date. Plus, all of the MLB 22 that we were just talking about, Artful Escape, Tunic, the list goes on. All the wonderful indie games and third-party games. Like every week we're surprised. Oh shit, that's on Game Pass. Like that happens on the regular, right? We're always amazed by how much stuff they're able to get on Game Pass. Sony, for whatever reason, either because they're not willing to spend the money or they just philosophically don't believe in it. Jim Ryan, made some vague statement this week about how he just doesn't think it's the right decision for Sony. They're just not gonna go there. They're not gonna match Microsoft. Their equivalent that would be Uncharted, Last of Us, God of War, all these amazing first party titles like Gran Turismo. All of these are going to be day and date, burned into PlayStation Plus, mega ultra, whatever their top tier is. They're just not going to do it. So it's not a true competitor. But for people who are already in the PlayStation ecosystem, I think it's going to be a very interesting option they're going to want to look at. The biggest thing is, and we talked about this earlier in the week, Mike, is we don't know what the games are yet. Show me, let's see what the games are. They say, okay, 400 games on this tier, 700 games on that tier. Okay, fine. What are the games? Are they, is it going to be a lot of filler? Is it going to be a lot of bargain bin trash? Or are they going to be a lot of games on there that we actually want to play? Until they actually start rolling out the specific lists, we won't know how good this offering really is. But Sony definitely need to they at least needed to close the gap between Game Pass and PlayStation Plus, because it was an epic chasm between the two in terms of the value that they offer. And I think that I think that this will at least close the gap, and PlayStation will be able to make a better argument about, oh yeah, if you buy our subscription service, we have all this great stuff as well, and they'll be able to kind of wave a bunch of games that they have, and it'll be good stuff. Again, way better than what they have right now. But unless, and as Parris is right, nobody really expected them to go to go toe to toe with Microsoft on the day and date first party and exclusive PlayStation new releases. So we weren't terribly surprised, but even Blessing, with one of the biggest PlayStation stands that we know, co-host of PS I Love You, was a guest on the show this week saying he was kind of underwhelmed by it. So it seems like the general view among PlayStation gamers this past week was kind of yeah, all right, let's see the games, but generally just kind of a bit meh. It didn't blow anybody away.
Yeah. It felt like the blog post news announcement is
right.
That's a blog post, is right.
Yeah.
Guys, as we start to say goodbye to this episode, I want to ramp down with one final story, because this year we're saying goodbye to E3. It was announced this week that E3 is officially canceled. We knew about the in-person event being canceled, but now we fully know that E3 2022 will not happen this year, digitally or in person. Of course, the ESA did say that they are looking to return 2023, but that also leaves a gap for this summer. Of course, we know Jeff Keighley and his Summer Games Fest will probably fill the hole of that, but it is interesting because Parris, Gary, and myself, we've all talked about E3. We've attended E3 before, and it's kind of brought the gamers together for a full week of announcements and fun with new games coming up in the the near future. Where do we stand now, Parris Lilly, with an Xbox event? Will they tie themselves to Jeff Keighley? Do they do their own thing? What will summer 2022 look like without E3?
It was funny. I was in a Spaces with Jeff Keighley today talking about this very subject. He was obviously talking about Summer Games Fest and, his thoughts on E3 and just kind of where he sees everything headed moving forward. To answer your question, I think Xbox just does their own thing. I don't think they necessarily tie it to what Jeff is doing. It sounds like what Jeff is doing is he's making his, his partnerships and deals, and he'll have reveals. He said he'll have kind of a hybrid digital and in-person event, and we'll obviously get more information on that, moving forward. And the fact that he's planning to do some in-person things, I just think Xbox will probably schedule something close to those dates, but not on the same day, and just basically do what they did last year. To me, that makes the most sense. I thought they did a great job last year with their showcase, and their host on the extended was pretty good too. But
Very good.
but but yeah, I just think they'll do their own thing, and they obviously have a lot. There's a lot. It's funny, if I can pause on that real quick.
Yeah.
There's a lot of expectation for whatever they're going to do this summer, because they've clearly been very light the first half of this year on game announcements, obviously actual game releases, the whole thing. So I don't know if pressure is the right word, but I'm going to say it anyways. There's a lot of pressure on Xbox to deliver a huge showcase this summer. Clearly, Starfield is going to be the star of it. We know that. But beyond that, we need to see what the next Forza is. Am I going to see Avowed? Are we going to see Fable? Are they going to show Perfect Dark? There's so many games that we know are in production that we've heard so little about, that people are going to have the expectation that we're going to see them this summer. So yeah, I expect them to have a huge show. It like, they did the showcase in the extended. I almost think they got to do something like that again, because if they have enough news that I'm expecting them to have, it probably makes sense to split it up over 2 shows, so they don't try and cram it just into a 90-minute, 2-hour show. It probably needs more time than that. So yeah, they're going to do their own thing for sure.
Gary Whitta, you've been in this industry a long time, and you've known E3 since pretty much the beginning up till now, right? A full year off. Is this the moment where Jeff Keighley gives the killing blow to E3 and ESA, or do we expect that to return, Gary Whitta?
I gotta say, I'm not terribly sorry to see E3 going, if that is indeed what's happening. And yeah, I'm old enough. I used to go to CES before E3 even existed, and I was at the very first E3, so I remember it very well. But it also makes me think that I wonder sometimes if, like, those of us in the media bubble who actually would go to E3 are making a bit too much of a big deal out of the fact that it's kind of past its sell by date, and it's going to go away most likely, because we were the ones that kind of got the most out of it, right? We actually got to go to the show, hang out at the Figueroa Hotel, go to all the junkets and the crazy things, and go to the behind closed doors events and hang out with celebrities and all the bullshit that you get to do at E3, and go to the big Xbox Borg Cube and feel the excitement of being there, in person. For the general public, for everyone else, it was always something that they just kind of experienced remotely. And whatever replaces E3 is going to be very much the same experience, whether it's Jeff Keighley Fest or Xbox and PlayStation and Nintendo just kind of doing their own thing. I just think we're at a point where, look, E3 has given us many great moments and many great memories over the years, and it's a big part of game industry history. But I think it is now kind of passing into history. The idea of one big monolithic summer show where everyone comes together is starting to feel a bit old-fashioned in the modern age, no longer really fit for purpose. You've got other the IGNs of the world, the Keighleys of the world, the Xbox, PlayStations, Nintendos of the world, who realize we don't really need it. They're happy to do their own thing and show these games off on their own terms and on their own schedule. And so the only thing that's really being lost here is a few days of journalists getting drunk at the Fig, right? That's really
God, I miss it so much.
That's when you see people bemoaning E3 going away, you have to remember these are the people that experienced it the way that the vast majority of the general public never did, which is in person, hanging out with their industry pals, having a drink, getting to go behind closed doors. And we're also those people, that very small subset of people, are going to be sad to see that go away. But I think for the industry at large and for gamers who are watching at home, it's going to make almost no difference to them. Something else will replace it that's more modern, better suited to the modern age, and time moves on.
Going to be a very interesting and exciting summer. We'll see what Jeff Keighley has planned, what partners he can bring together for a fun little Jeff Keighley fest. But most importantly, as Xbox fans, we look to Xbox to see what's next. What is the big moment? I'm going to be very excited to see that announcement and all of the fun. But you know what, guys? Let's get out of here. Let's get ready for the weekend. Gary Whitta, Parris Lilly, thank you for your time. Thank you for another great Xcast. Everybody watching and listening, play a bunch of video games. Check out Weird West. Get ready for MLB The Show. You also have the Lego Star Wars coming out next week, so you got a lot of games coming your way. So have fun.
Streaming. Greg is streaming that on
Greg
the
is
Xbox
streaming
channel.
on Xbox. Oh, thank you, Parris. Yeah, we should announce that. Greg will be streaming that live over on the Xbox channel to celebrate Star Wars. So Go check him out and support him and bring some green into that chat. And we'll see you all soon. Goodbye.